Hello and welcome to the Innovation Women Speak webinar series. My name is Bobby Carlton and I'm the founder of Innovation Women. Innovation Women is a visibility bureau for entrepreneurial, technical, and professional women. We connect women with speaking opportunities and connect event managers with awesome speakers who just happen to be women. We also are on a mission. So what we do is we eliminate the all-male, all-pale, and all-stale panels you see so often at industry conferences and events. If you're interested in becoming an Innovation Women speaker, we're much more than a traditional speakers bureau. Event managers can search the database for free, and speakers pay just $100 a year to become a member. We recently rolled out a number of new features. Event managers can post calls for speakers directly on our platform. Speakers can search for and apply to those postings. And our dashboard allows you to manage your applications and invitations. We also have an improved search function and public profiles and shareable links. If you're interested in more information about Innovation Women, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter or text INNO to the number 22828. And if you want to sign up for Innovation Women, go to innovationwomen.com and use the promo code IWWebinar, and that's all in capital letters until midnight tonight for 20% off the membership fee. Before we get to today's speaker, I just want to share who we will have up next week. Rachel Sherrill will be talking about women as business leaders, and that is on July 24th from noon until 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rachel is a business builder, a marketing strategist, and a best-selling author. She'll be joining us to discuss the role of women as business leaders. Her long career and her findings, her learnings, and recommendations are at the heart of her #1 international best-selling book, Orgasmic Leadership, Profiting from the Coming Surge in Women's Health and Wellness. And it provides unique perspectives on leadership and business building and the money that can be made on capitalizing on the market opportunities. So today's featured speaker, and again, all of the Innovation Women Speaker Series speakers can be found on the Innovation Women platform if you're looking for speakers. Today we have Amanda Nielsen, and she's here to talk about how your product is your best salesperson. Amanda is a demand generation marketer at New Breed, a diamond tier HubSpot agency. She drives growth for New Breed by leveraging content creation, lifecycle marketing, and multi-channel inbound marketing strategies to engage and delight prospects into customers and ultimately brand evangelists. Before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. What you're looking at right now is our webinar attendee screen. This is an annotated version of your screen. Below the video viewing window, there are tabs. The default tab is Ask a Question, and you can type in a question or a comment at any point during the program. The Attachments tab is where you'll see documents from the speaker and the link to sign up for our next webinar. You can download the attachments also at any time during the program. There's also a tab for polls, and the tab called Rate This helps us determine what you like. We read all the feedback, so don't be afraid to tell us everything. You can also enlarge your screen to view it in full screen mode, and if any time you need audio help, feel free to click on the Help button at the bottom of the screen. So now we're going to be heading on to today's presentation. Amanda, you're going to be doing a screen share, right?
Yes.
So take it away.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here. Let me just pull up the screen share really quick. I think I had it up earlier by mistake, so
Yeah, and actually we're going to be launching a poll. So in just a few moments you will be seeing a poll pop up on your screen. And what we're asking is, are any of you already using product-led strategies now? So if you want to use your poll and let us know if you're already doing this type of thing, that would be great. And Amanda, I will let you know what our audience thinks about that.
Awesome. Okay, so we should be all set here. You should be seeing the How to Let Your Product Be Your Best Salesperson screen here. Let's see, and let's take a look at this poll. So we have one answer so far, so planning on it. That's awesome to hear. Product-led growth is definitely an up-and-coming strategy for a lot of software companies and the like, but it's not exactly the easiest thing to implement right away, so it definitely is something that is a long-term investment and takes a lot of time. Cool. And we have some people using product-led strategies, not using them, and not really sure. Awesome. So we've got a pretty diverse mix of experience here. So I'm really excited to be here. As Bobby said, I work at Newbury Marketing, which is a diamond tier HubSpot agency. We offer inbound marketing and sales solutions to the B2B SaaS space. So we work with companies in a variety of different industries, but B2B SaaS is kind of our bread and butter, and we have a lot of experience in helping companies like that grow. And one of the strategies that is, like I just said, up-and-coming, leading, kind of cutting-edge tactic is product-led growth, which is what we're going to be discussing today. So here's a quick agenda for today. We're going to be defining what product-led growth is, kind of analyzing that pivotal shift from marketing-led to product-led, how to balance investment in brand versus customer acquisition and the different trial and error that comes with that. And then lastly, best practices for evolving your marketing strategy to accommodate product-led growth. And then we'll go over key takeaways, and I'm going to leave time at the end for some Q&A, but please feel free to ask questions as we move along. It's actually easier for us to address them as they pop up rather than wait till the very end. So as Bobby explained earlier, feel free to send them in via the question panel there. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So what is product-led growth? So this is kind of a B2B SaaS buzzword that we hear tossed around a lot on social media and the like, but there's a bit of ambiguity as to what a product-led strategy actually entails. But essentially, a product-led growth strategy is a go-to-market strategy that's reliant on product. So it focuses on leveraging your product for customer acquisition, retention, and expansion. And it really focuses on the idea of adding value before you extract value. And I'll get into what that means a little bit later, but it's a really critical component of any successful product-led strategy, and it kind of plays on the psychology of reciprocity and offering value before you ask for value in exchange, which in the case of business is asking somebody to become a paying customer. And it's really shaping the way people are buying. So marketing content is still important, but it's not the be-all and end-all of a growth strategy. And in this scenario, you can almost let your product kind of lead the way and almost sell itself. But of course, that's not to say that marketing and sales aren't necessary still. They are. It's just the way that we're going about them is going to have to change a little bit. So moving on to the next slide here. There's been a pivotal shift to PLG in the recent years. A lot of really fast-growing SaaS companies like Calendly, Slack, Atlassian, Expensify, and so on have used a product-led approach to really achieve sustained growth and really scale from startup to enterprise and so on. So this is a really important, I guess, part of history in the last 20 or so years when software as a service companies have been coming up and, expanding and becoming more popular. Subscription-based product as a service companies are starting to become some of the most popular business models, and that's not really expected to change anytime soon. If anything, they're going to get more popular. So a product-led approach is going to be really important for anybody in the tech industry. And so as I kind of discussed earlier, we really have been focusing on a marketing-led and sales-led approach for the last, 50 years or so. Before SaaS really came into the mix, we've relied heavily on marketing tactics, both traditional and digital, and then your sales team to really close the deal for any type of complex sales cycle. So we're kind of flipping the switch now, and rather than having marketing and sales really lead it, you're leading with your product and then allowing marketing and sales to really supplement the buyer. So 3 essential elements that are pretty fundamental and that you're probably all familiar with in one way or another are virality. So I guess the act of being a viral product, not necessarily viral as in what we see on Facebook when videos and content goes viral and you get thousands and millions of views and so on, but more so the fact that it can be almost spread from person to person. And we'll dig into that and go through some examples in a minute. And then freemium. So a lot of you have used freemium products before, I'm sure. I know I have. And then lastly, referral based. So this is another method that a lot of times I think we see in B2C a lot of times. In terms of referring friends to like a page on Facebook or inviting a friend to make a Twitter account and you get some sort of incentive in return. This is now being adopted by B2B software companies. And we'll get into examples, like I said, in just a minute here. So this is in reference to the referral-based example that I just discussed. So Dropbox is a really popular document sharing and storage platform, and they achieved hypergrowth by leveraging a really strong referral and incentive program for growth. So as many of you probably know, you might even use Dropbox yourselves. It offers a combination of the elements that we discussed earlier, but it heavily relies on the referral program. So with Dropbox, you can sign up for a free account and you get to store a certain number of documents or a certain amount of data is allotted to you. But you can, before paying for the product, you can use a certain number of different tactics to expand the amount of data that you're allotted. And so you can either pay and get the full product, and so no longer having the free trial or freemium version, but actually paying a monthly fee, or you can refer a friend, and you'll see on this slide, for every friend you refer, you get an additional 16 gigabytes of space, which is really cool because that is actually a huge benefit, and that's a huge value that the person is getting without even having to spend money. Similarly, connecting your Facebook account and sharing offers another 125 megabytes, and same with Twitter. And so these are awesome non-monetary incentives that kind of capitalize on that idea of referral. So you can refer a friend. Sharing on your network is also another form of referral because people are going to see it. And it also has that viral component. So when you share on Facebook, your whole entire Facebook network is seeing this. And so by just doing that, even if you're not directly sending it to anyone, it's getting that much more traction organically, which is really awesome. And so Dropbox is a really awesome example of product-led growth, and it really kind of hits all the marks with the freemium, the viral, and the referral program. This is another example from our friends over at Sigster. If any of you are familiar with Sigster or not, they are basically an email signature software as a service. So you can actually use your email signatures within your company to be, I guess, a marketing channel. So you can customize them and make them have all different types of content based on what your goals are. For example, in this case, Brad and the rest of the people at Sigster are currently promoting their presence at Connex conference, and so you can interchange that piece of content when needed. And so the little arrow at the bottom here is a little link, and this is on everybody's email. So every single email that gets sent from somebody using this product has this little "not using Sigster yet" question. It's really small. It's really hard to notice, honestly, but it's there. So if somebody sees this email signature and is like, oh, this is really cool, what is this thing? They can click this link and it'll take them to their very own free trial page to learn more about the product. And so this is kind of crazy because Sigster is able to use their product as a marketing channel, not even within their own instance, but within the instance of other companies, which is really cool. It's almost like white labeling with a tiny, tiny asterisk at the bottom that says, hey, this is actually a Sigster product or whatever. So this is a really unique example of product-led growth where you can really get creative with the space that you have and the prime real estate within your actual product. Another one that's really cool is a lot of people use Slack. If you've ever used Slack, the loading screens when you're like booting up the application after it's been closed are really like cheeky. Sometimes they have advice like drink more water and just things like that. So that's kind of just another example of how your product can offer some prime real estate that a lot of people really don't take advantage of. And that's just another element of a successful product-led growth strategy. One more here. So Zoom, a lot of people are familiar with Zoom. And this is actually what we use internally at New Breed for our conferencing. So within every meeting that we have, whether or not it's internal or with partners or external clients, we do it all over Zoom. And so because we use Zoom, Zoom has the opportunity to promote themselves to not just New Breed, who is already a client, but everybody that we meet with. And so every single calendar event that we have with anyone who's not on Zoom, they get to see this little button that says join Zoom meeting. And by this, they get exposure and then they get a tertiary user of their product. And I'll kind of explain what that means in a minute here. But essentially, there's another sub-user that is totally unrelated to Zoom, but is a customer of New Breed or is interacting with New Breed and so on. So you can really make your content and your product go viral by including different elements like this. And someone may hop on a call with us and say, oh, this Zoom product is really easy to use. Like, what is this? And then they can look into it and they know exactly what it is and they can potentially check it out for themselves. So there's definitely a lot of little hidden elements in software products that you interact with on a regular basis that you don't necessarily notice or think much of, but they can actually contribute to accelerated growth. And a lot of companies are starting to realize that and capitalize on it. Some of you may even be doing it without even realizing it. So that brings us to our next point, which is building your user experience for not just your paying customers, but your secondary and tertiary users as well. So your primary users are going to be the people who are either paying customers or freemium users. So in the case of New Breed, we pay for Slack. So we are the primary users of Slack. We were originally a freemium user, and then ultimately we found enough value in the free product that we thought it would be fit to pay for the whole thing and have it be adopted company-wide. And then a secondary user of Slack might be our clients. So sometimes we use Slack channels as a collaboration space for our clients, and they may not use Slack internally at their company, but because New Breed uses Slack as a way to communicate with clients, they then get to use Slack for free through New Breed. So they're a secondary user and they're directly using the platform and getting all the benefits and so on. And then lastly, we have the tertiary users, which are basically indirect users as a result of your customers. So an example of a tertiary user would be something like Drift. If any of you are familiar with Drift, and it's a chatbot software basically for conversational marketing. You can go on someone's website, and if you're looking for something or you want to get in touch with a real person, you can interact with the Drift bot. And while you're not actually using the bot yourself as like a primary user, right? You're not using it for your own marketing efforts, but you're using it as that tertiary consumer. You're still getting exposure and you're still interacting with a product that you may not have otherwise. And you can see there's a little tiny thing down in the corner that Drift uses. I don't have a picture of it here, but if you're ever on a Drift website, you'll notice it, and it says powered by Drift. And so that's just another way to reach every single person that your customer also reaches, which is pretty crazy. So they're really, really able to capitalize on that little bit of real estate, and it makes a huge difference, especially when they're having a good experience with the product, and they might not even know it until after they say, oh, what was that? That was really helpful. And so that brings us to our next point, which is, among all the product-led stuff, you also have to really focus on your brand and not just on customer acquisition. So a lot of times startup companies and small software companies will focus on really just acquiring customers, so selling to anybody and everybody. And that's a good way to kind of, get your toes wet and really start building a presence and authority within your industry. But ultimately, you don't want to just acquire customers. You really want to build a brand and ultimately a community around your product, because the number one enemy of any SaaS company is going to be customer churn. And if you don't have an effective brand and a solid customer retention strategy, you're going to be acquiring customers, but you're also going to be churning like crazy. So brand is one really important component of any successful product-led strategy. So like I said with my Slack example earlier, Slack does a really great job of having cute little messages that are kind of totally on brand and friendly and make people giggle within their product, right? And so while that's not necessarily an opportunity to upsell, by seeing that nice message, it enhances the brand and really kind of demonstrates that Slack is a company that has strong values and, truly cares about their customers. And it makes the experience that much more pleasant. And while you can't directly generate revenue from a pleasant message, that it enhances the user's experience and therefore makes them more likely to upgrade in the future and become a true brand evangelist. A lot of times people think of brand as a verb and a noun, and there's not a lot of, straightforward definition for, the two different versions of brand. So a lot of times people confuse brand as a noun as brand as a verb, as in branding. So brand isn't necessarily branding like fonts and logos and colors and what your website looks like, but rather brand as a noun kind of refers to who you are as a company and what people think of when you're not there to say, we're a diamond tier HubSpot partner that specializes in so-and-so. Your brand is really what people say about you when you're not in the room. And that's even more important than what you brand yourself as. And so making sure that you have a solid idea of the difference between the two and that you're not just focusing on the branding, but rather your actual brand and incorporating that into your product, because ultimately that's going to strengthen your product-led strategy. And then lastly, I would touch on the importance of keeping brand in mind through different stages of growth. So your brand should be continually evolving. You should never, ever stay stagnant, and you'll notice that some of the most successful companies go through rebrands on a fairly consistent basis. Again, Slack recently changed their logo, in preparation for their impending IPO. That was probably about a year ago they changed it. And that just goes to show that even though they're a really successful company, they're a poster child for product-led growth, their brand was not perfect, and it never will be, but they identified that and they weren't afraid to continue to evolve it and make positive changes. And so brand, like I just mentioned, is going to be different at every growth stage. Who you are at startup stage is not going to be the same as who you are at scale and enterprise and so on. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that and make sure that you're making outward changes to kind of align with your growth trajectory. Because if you have the brand of a startup, but you're the size of an enterprise company, people are going to pick up on that, and it's going to come across as kind of strange or uncomfortable, and it's not going to be as helpful to you in the long run. So that brings us to the next point here, which would be how to evolve your marketing strategy for product-led growth. So like I said in the beginning here, product-led growth is not a replacement for marketing or sales by any means. Rather, it's a matter of really positioning what's at the forefront of your whole entire business strategy. And in this case, you're going to swap marketing and sales for product. So product is going to be really what leads your customer acquisition strategy, and then your marketing and sales strategies are going to be what kind of supplements it. So product-led growth strategies definitely aren't one size fits all. Not every single company is going to be able to offer a free trial or freemium version. They may not have the capacity to make their product viral. I know that a lot of companies like Expensify and BlueSnap, which is actually a client of ours, because they have to do with finance and expenses, you can't make it as publicly accessible as you can something like a calendar or, I guess, a chatbot, right? Because you're dealing with much more sensitive information. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't adopt a product-led approach. It's just a matter of how you do it. So in this case, it's important to really figure out what you can offer, and if you can't offer a totally free version, what can you do? So at New Breed, we don't have a software product or anything physical. We offer services to people. So really our product is our people, but we can't just say, hey, here's a free trial with our, website strategist. But rather we use a product-led approach by offering free assessments. So this is a really easy way for us to kind of add value before extracting it and asking someone to become a customer. We can give them a taste of what it is actually like to work with a web strategist at New Breed. So our web strategist will sit down for almost like a demo call, and they'll walk through, our prospect's website and say, here are some ideas for, improving this, and this is where we could help out, and so on and so on. And so that's kind of like a person-to-person free trial, which you don't really think of it like that, but at the end of the day, that's still a product-led approach, even though our product is, person-to-person communication and not necessarily this physical thing. So that just goes to show that it's really not that hard to adopt a product-led strategy. You just have to figure out really where you can afford to provide that value before you ask for anything in return. And ultimately, combined with a strong brand and strong mission, you can promote really end user advocacy and loyalty, which is what you really want to do, because in the end, like I said earlier, SaaS companies, the number one thing that you want to avoid is customer churn. And so you want to create not just people who buy your product, but you want to create a community of brand evangelists. One really good example of that is Hubspot. So Hubspot is a marketing software, or at least that's what they started out as, and have expanded far beyond that. But they are able to really lead with their product and build a community around it by creating the inbound methodology, not necessarily creating, but kind of coining it and bringing it to the mainstream. And so they've done a super great job of combining their product and their brand to really build this whole entire ecosystem of marketing and sales professionals that adopt their strategies and also use their product. And a lot of people are super loyal to this methodology and therefore loyal to the Hubspot product as opposed to Marketo or Apply and the like, just because they have such a strong alignment between their brand, their product, and their users, really. And then lastly, I want to touch on the point of shifting from the funnel to the flywheel. So this is kind of another marketing buzzword that's popped up in the recent, year or so. But this idea of having a flywheel rather than just a marketing and sales funnel. And so traditionally, we see the sales funnel with marketing and sales efforts as the input, with customers as the output, and then you kind of just don't really hear about them after that. But it really shouldn't be the case, because we want to build a community around the brand. We want to create brand evangelists, and we want to really, not just sell. We want to make happy customers who want to grow with us, who can be upsold and increase their lifetime value and so on. And if you're just putting marketing and sales efforts in and then kind of forget about them once they become a paying customer, you're going to lose them eventually. And so the shift is to a flywheel, which is essentially the idea that your customers should be in the center of this flywheel with marketing, sales, and service revolving around them at all times. And so customer includes a pre-customer, which is essentially a prospect or an opportunity, and then, post-sale customers, so your actual paying customer base. In the case of software, this would include your free trial customers as well. They should get the same treatment as somebody who's a paying customer, because ultimately freemium has one of the highest conversion rates. And so you want to give them a taste of not just your product, but what it would be like to be a paying customer. So what's it like working with the support team or your customer success manager and so on. And really the Flywheel is just promotes the idea that we need to be not just selling to people, but we need to be selling to high-fit customers that can provide a high lifetime value, which is really what's going to lead to any type of sustained growth, because you can sell a ton of really small deals, or you can, retain a customer base that's continually upsold and referring people by word of mouth and just absolutely loves you. And that's what's going to be the big game changer and really help your company stand out and grow. And brand really plays into that a lot too. So it's kind of all this meshed, combined idea of just promoting positive experiences through your brand, your product, and I guess the experience that people have, whether or not they're a customer or a prospect or they've churned, and so on. So in summary, I would just want to go over a few key takeaways here, but product-led strategy is essentially a go-to-market strategy, but you can implement it once you've already gone to market. This isn't reserved specifically for startups, but it means letting your product be a channel for customer acquisition. And so not just reserving it for paid acquired customers, but to acquire them in the first place, so offering it to prospects and the like. And this is a really good strategy for promoting retention and ultimately expansion and upselling, which helps you sustain long-term growth. And then also balancing your investment in that customer acquisition, but keeping it aligned with the brand and making sure that you're not doing too much of one or the other. So if you're investing a ton in customer acquisition, but you have a really weak brand, you're not going to be successful. And then conversely, if you have an awesome brand, but you're not leveraging your product as a channel and you're not investing a lot in acquiring new customers, you're also not going to be successful. So it's kind of a fine line and a careful balance that you kind of just have to use trial and error to figure out, because it's not one size fits all, and it's going to really be different for every company. And then lastly, in order to effectively leverage a PLG strategy, your marketing and your sales strategy really should evolve to promote end user advocacy and really enabling the customers to become empowered, even if they're not a real customer yet. So pre-customers, as in prospects, free trial users, and so on. So empowering them and giving them value before you ask them to start paying you on a monthly basis or yearly basis and so on is what's going to really win people over. And it's going to be a big game changer, because a lot of companies are really hesitant to even do this. A lot of SaaS companies that we work with say, like, well, we can't afford to offer our product for free because that seems like a huge deal to offer an entire SaaS product for free. And that's because it is. So obviously successful companies that are using a freemium model aren't giving away the whole product, but rather they're giving away just enough value and just enough features to provide a valuable experience to the customer that's going to ultimately urge them to want to purchase the whole product. And so just figuring out where you can afford to give up a little bit of value here and there can really pay off for you. So yeah, in summary, PLG is a really popular strategy. It's up and coming, and it's really important, especially for SaaS companies. But even if you're not a SaaS company, if you don't have a physical product like an agency like New Breed, or you're in a completely different industry and you're actually selling something physical or it's different in some capacity, there's definitely opportunities for any type of company to provide that value before they extract it and really lead with their product or service. So yeah, let's open it up for Q&A if anybody has any burning questions. I'd be happy to answer them. If not, if they come up later, feel free to ping me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Love connecting with people there and answering questions or exchanging gifts or whatever. Yeah, you guys know, you know me on Twitter.
That was terrific, Amanda. And audience, if you have any questions, you can put those in the system, and we will ask Amanda the questions. I also want to point out that Amanda has given us a New Breed Essential Guide that you can download in the attachments and links section as well as a link to her website. So we do have a couple of questions starting to come in, but feel free to put your question in. The first question is, do you have to have a tangible product to leverage this kind of a strategy?
Yeah, so no. I kind of just dug into this a little bit, but like I said, like at Newbreed, we don't have a physical product. We have people, and it really all boils down to figuring out like what value you're providing to the customer with, your service or your product and so on. So if you're a marketing automation product, what you're really providing isn't just, this thing to send emails from or whatever. You're providing, a streamlined process for something that's normally kind of painstaking and tedious. So capitalizing on that pain point and really figuring out how to, highlight that and extract that value from your product into a form that can be offered for free or on trial is going to be really important. So in the case of HubSpot or any type of marketing automation, maybe offering the list segmentation or the email marketing for free, but then gating, the other higher value parts of the product. So it's all about finding a balance between what's just enough and what's too much.
Okay. Can you provide some more examples of companies that leverage product-led tactics?
Yeah, definitely. So one company that I touched on a little bit was Drift. They do a really awesome job in product-led growth, and not just that they're able to lead with their product, but they have a brand that really supports it as well. They are super active on social media. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Dave Gerhardt and Dave Cancel and their entire Seeking Wisdom podcast network and the like. But they do a really awesome job of not just putting their product at the forefront, but also thought leadership and their branding. And you can see that in all aspects of their products. So within the actual Drift tool, they have their awesome little cheeky responses. You can customize your bot, and they give you examples, and it's really just, it's all aligned and it's all on brand. If you go to their website, their Drift bot, it's super clever. It sounds like it feels like you're talking to really like one of their actual employees, which is really cool. So they do a good job kind of upholding their values and the type of experience that they want to promote for their customers within the product, within their people, within the content. So yeah, I would definitely check out their website and their bot and just, observe where you can identify all those little points where they're using a product-led approach, because it's a lot more than you realize when you're not really looking for it.
Great. And can small teams leverage a product-led approach?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that it's definitely going to be an effort between, if you're a software company, your product team and who's developing the applications or the products or whatever, and the marketing team. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for you to collaborate. So it's not just your marketing team and it's not just your product team, but it's going to really be the two working together to identify, what areas we could use for a product-led approach. Is there valuable real estate within our product where we can add in stuff to reinforce our brand or promote an upsell or whatever? And then, going back to your product team and working closely with them to figure out whether or not that's actually possible, and if it would affect the efficiency of the product and so on. So I definitely recommend collaborating and being really open to having a discussion with not just marketing, but the whole team.
Great. Thank you so much. And we don't have any other questions from the audience, but I do want to ask the audience to give us feedback. So click on that feedback or reviews tab and let us know what you think. And if you are interested in more Innovation Women seminars and webinars, sign up for our free weekly newsletter or text INNO to the number 22-828. You can sign up to be one of our speakers or to look for speakers at innovationwomen.com. Event managers can use Innovation Women to find awesome speakers just like Amanda. And thanks again, and we'll see you all next week for more Innovation Women webinars. And thanks again, Amanda.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Definitely check out Innovation Women. It's an organization that is very near and dear to my heart as an aspiring public speaker, so definitely shout them out on social and give it a chance.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a good day. Take care.
Bye.